And we are back with another episode, number 65 of the What's Really Going On podcast. Before we get into it, be sure to follow us on social media. That includes Twitter and Instagram at WRGO Pod. Be sure to subscribe and listen on YouTube, where you can watch all of our videos in full. Be sure to listen, like, and comment and share on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Finally, be sure to keep up with everything What's Really Going On our official website, what's really going on pod.com. I am joined, as always, by Mackenzie and Henry. How are you guys?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Henry?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, good Lord. I thought the energy was low. All right. So we are obviously recording this on January 21st, the day after Joe Biden has been officially sworn in as our 46th president. So we'll just kicking off right there. What were your kind of official overall takeaways from the inauguration yesterday?
My vice president went to Howard University. That's about it.
All the women, they look good. Like, they look good. They really, really, really looked good.
Michelle came out there stepping. And they sent a memo around like all the women gotta wear chromo.
One color, monochrome. I had to be, because that's kind of weird that everybody like did that pretty much.
And not even just monochrome, but the long trenches.
Yeah.
It wasn't a suit. It was a trench. Okay, I see what winter fashion y'all hit. So that was cool. To me, it was good to see, like, it was like, well, I'm gonna say this. The inauguration, they kind of tried to like wash out that like Trump existed. I'm gonna just say that, to me, because it's like Obama came in, they like, it was like he was passing the baton instead of like Trump. Or even
I feel like they didn't even mention his name. Like, I feel like there was no acknowledgement.
To wash past he even happened. Because even to the extent like Bush was there playing friendly, and he's a Republican, right? So it's like, for me, it's like how this gonna really go down in history? Because like, the Twitter conversation is, oh, we're living through history right now. How is this gonna whatever? And I've been but like having just conversations. And for me, I'm like, they're gonna like, okay, it was a global pandemic, the economy got struck, and like the little like Black Lives Matters moments or whatever, those are going to be subtitles. But the big stuff that's happening right now, like Trump, they're going to be like, he served as president, he boosted the economy for this, and then the global pandemic happened and that caused and then Biden won. Like, they're not going to talk about how like the fact that Georgia, a Confederate state, just flipped blue. The Senate is not controlled by both, the Congress is controlled by, Democrats on both parts of the house. So it's stuff like that there. I wonder how that's going to be discussed in history, because we're seeing it, we're witnessing it, but like we just kind of attested to, like, they're not even mentioning Trump. So how is he going to go down in history when he technically is the only president to get impeached twice?
Yeah, I mean, I think they didn't mention him, or Biden didn't mention him on purpose, because like, what are you gonna say? Like, I'm gonna mention someone who just had this big moment at the Capitol, who led it, and he just got impeached. He's not here, and he's kind of it's almost like you knew who he was talking about when he was talking about division and we need to like fix up this pandemic. You knew who he was talking about, but it just served him no purpose to mention it, which I think is kind of like a very responsible thing, because he's like, I'm moving on. Like, there's no point in me going back in the past, even though I think that that does have some importance, I think, in terms of like our national conversation. But I think for him, he's probably just saying like, I'm just gonna move on. Like, there's no point in me digging back in the past, because like me taking shots at you or me mentioning you, I got a job to do, which is like, I thought it was refreshing. I mean, it was boring, but like, that's fine.
Get to why you're here, and I think like even his White House press secretary had her first presser yesterday, and it was just kind of like they had asked her about is he going to, you know, support Congress and impeaching or like holding Trump accountable for his actions, and she just said that's Congress's business now. We're here, we're like moving forward. There's obviously a lot on their plate that they need to be focused on, and Congress and all of those other people, if you all want to still, you know, bring up Trump and give life to that, go ahead, but it is time to just move on. Like, he's had 4 years and it's just been drawn out. So
to that point though, like being that they're in this like move on stance, and we've kind of said on that podcast, we are hopefully in an age of where we're holding legislators accountable when they're like being more progressive and fighting for our rights and whatever. But with them kind of like washing Trump away and then going back to this kind of whitewash conservatism, like how do you think that's gonna play? Is, you know, how is that gonna go into play? They're kind of washing Trump out, all this stuff that clearly caught, like, we seen the big divide in the country, and now they're trying to play like nothing happened. Let's just move on.
I don't think they're playing like anything happened. I don't even think that they're really like, I think they're just not acknowledging, or I don't think the Biden administration is going to acknowledge Trump anymore. But as far as like holding Congress and other parties and the FBI and all the crimes he's committed and been like accused of or whatever, I don't know if they're going to wash it away, because those are still crimes, you know, and it's still like, they might hold him accountable. Is the Biden administration going to hold him accountable? No, but I also don't think that it's necessary for that administration to do that. Everybody else, yeah, y'all can, but
yeah, I think it's, yeah, like to go on Mackenzie's point, like there's just no, at that point, you're just picking a fight. And I think for him, I mean, that was like the whole point of his presidency was like, I'll just do the job and that's kind of it. And I think as like corny and basic as it sounds, it's actually like what we need is someone to just be like, I'll just drive the car and I'm not going to focus on anything else but like getting stuff done. And I think we do need that. But I do think, to Henry's point, I think it's interesting because I think that we do kind of have a way of kind of like forgetting what happens a lot of times, especially when it involves like Trump or just like, not even Trump, but like the broader Republican Party and all the stuff that they've done. That's actually something that I do worry about, because I think that now it's easy to have the conversation about like racism and white supremacy when it's Trump, because that's so easy to spot. But now that Trump's gone, the white supremacy is not going to be like, oh, you know, there were fine people on both sides. It's going to be like, oh, I'm going to lobby for a voter ID law bill and not understand how that in itself is like supporting white supremacy. So it gets like more nuanced, and the media is just going to be like, oh, it's a disagreement of parties, when it's like, no, one party's being racist, but like they're not going to call it that because it's not as easy to understand. Yeah, so I think that's something I worry about.
Even that though, like even with how even Bush, at least on Twitter, actually, no, I feel like in real life, like people have like totally forgot how he handled
his rebrand.
Yeah, his rebrand, and people have like forgot, like, no, this man is actually pretty trash. Like he proved that he's racist, or maybe not outwardly racist like Trump, but definitely some questionable things happened under your administration. So even Bill Clinton, I think our generation with Bill Clinton kind of like sees that, no, he was low-key problematic, but the rebrand of Bush though is actually very scary and actually very concerning.
Yeah, I mean, and just to think, like, it happened in 8 years, and I think like a lot of it is just the fact that like you know, I genuinely do believe that like he seemed like a very genuine, nice person. He just seemed like he was not up for the job, and I think that like
no, you're talking about Bush or Clinton, because I got confused on what you're saying, because
mainly Bush, but I think the conversation swings into how kind of like once you're removed from something, people tend to kind of have a better view of how things were. And not just, and it's going to be harder to do that with Trump, but I think at the end of the day, when you look at the list of presidents, he's always going to be on it. So I think he's going to get more credibility than he actually needs. Like, you know, the closest example would probably be Nixon. Like, yeah, Nixon got impeached and he was going to leave, but like people don't really talk about him as like the actual crazy person that he was to actually like go in and break into like the Democratic like building in the 60s. Like, I think we tend to, and just like in general, like history has a tending of like kind of erasing what largely white men do that's bad.
But that's my point. Well, that was the point I was bringing up with saying how like they're washing past Trump and how would this go down in history. But I got a little like confused as I was listening to you all discuss how like Bush has kind of like recrafted his image. But to that same point, like I guess we know like it was like y'all kind of pinpointed like what he did with Katrina and stuff like that. Like Bush wasn't a great person, but since he's left the presidency, he's at least kind of coexisted in this bipartisan space to where like
he has to his credit.
Right.
But I think then it's the conversation that's absent is kind of like we got in a war that we're still in, with no evidence.
Right, because of you. And it's stuff like that that I think like people don't talk about. And I personally think that's a problem because if us I'm not a Democrat, but the Democratic Party is in this like transitional phase of trying to redefine themselves, figure out what them like, what they stand for, who are their like essentially target audience. Because we know as Black people, like we largely support them, especially like Black women. But these other groups, they kind of fall off and come in when they want to and how they choose. We all are aware of the fact that they're kind of like recrafting the brand, so to speak, right? So like with that being the case, I personally don't like the fact that we can like kind of like just ignore the history of these Republicans when they're blatantly disrespectful to our culture and what we stand for. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree. And then Mackenzie, from a news perspective, like how do you think, not even like history will kind of remember Trump, but how do you think like the coverage of politics will change? Because I feel like and I'm seeing it like already, like I think the goalposts are kind of like shifting already in terms of how people are covering Biden and expectation setting. Like as someone who like works in the news industry,
I think it's already like seeing stuff, and I just hope after this week and maybe the month of July, or I don't even know what January.
It's January,
January. Hopefully it ends this month, but I'm just seeing a lot return to normalcy. And I get that, but I don't want that to be like the standard, like, he's doing so much better than Trump did, but no, he still is pushing the needle just a little bit. Like
it's kind of like the bar is really the floor.
Since the bar is so low, I really hope that people are still going to hold him accountable, truly hold him accountable, not just because Trump was so whack, but like Biden, you definitely made promises, made commitments before you were in office, and just you still need to be held accountable. Or even like you said, the nuances, you could still participate in something that's racist. Are people going to call it out as racist just because it's not Trump? Probably not.
I fear no. And I feel like writers
probably not. Yeah. And that's what I'm seeing now. It's just this return to normalcy. And it's just like, okay, like after this month, let's like stop putting the bar that low and like get back to like.
And that's my point. It's like we know, we all know as people what we just experienced. But we know that the media, the powers that may be, they're going to paint it as this like, oh, well, we're back to normal. Everything's okay. And it's like, well, nah. And that's what I'm saying. How are we going to, with us as Democrats, they're in this space of whatever. They're trying to hold these people. Look, we got the AFCs, right? She's trying to call the people out and hold them accountable, blah, blah. How is her and the squad and all these people going to do that if the media largely and the Democratic Party will probably hop on board of, oh, nothing happened, we're back to normal, we're signing bills, we're doing what needs to be done, we're not in war, we're not taking children from their parents, we're not building wall, we're not so extreme, that's what I'm saying. How are we gonna hold them accountable if it's like Trump did all of this? They trying to make it seem like it didn't happen, and then on top of that, the media and whomever else is paying like, well, we're doing what we're supposed to do again.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost no. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
I was just saying, I feel like we've already seen it now. I feel like Biden never outwardly committed to like student loans and like really like.
No, he never did.
He never really did. But slowly but surely, the amount that they're trying to decrease is like slowly smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's just like little things like that I feel like.
That's what I'm saying.
Y'all watching this?
Right, Mackenzie.
Even though, like, no, Trump wasn't gonna cancel nothing, but also like canceling 5,000
because then when he first said something about student debt, it was like 40,000. Now it's 10.
Yeah, it just now, like I said, he never outwardly supported it, but it's still like
right. So it's
you also didn't be like he also wasn't like, I'm actually not gonna do that. So by the way, before y'all elect me, just know I'm actually don't support all of that. So
left it open. And I think I wish there was, and I don't know who like the member is, but I think like it would be good for kind of like the Biden administration to have like a kind of like someone just like to poke them in the side of like, here's where you need to be. Like I was talking to like my mother and she's in her 50s and she was just kind of like, like Biden getting in office doesn't really change much. And I think that's the conversation that like we need to have, is that like
it don't change nothing at all.
Right.
And
like
we kind of said that the last podcast though, to where how we're like, or not even that last podcast, this whole time where we've kind of been like, well, we're glad to see the first, Black female vice president, and she's from our like Almana. However,
but if it doesn't come with anything, it's useless.
Right. We know they both existed in this, conservative time period to where they keep it afloat and, do this bipartisan thing. But if us Black Americans, these minorities, the people of color, whomever, want to actually see change in this country, we're gonna have to flip this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't play by the archetype of which we've been playing by. We have to switch it up. We gotta.
And the funny thing is that like Biden has the opportunity to actually do that, where it's like he has the House, he has the Senate. I don't know, and I think that requires like
somebody like AOC on his throne,
or not even that. Someone even more important. He needs like, probably like Cory Booker or like a senator. He needs someone to be like, yo, if you do this, like I'm just not for it, and you actually need my vote. Like I think he needs that person.
Who, like a higher ranking senator or whomever on his cabinet?
Who is the next?
You know what I'm saying? Who is gonna be on his throat? Like we want him to
like a Kamala was on people's throats when.
The funny thing is that if you wanted to get kind of like purely for power, and like they would never do this, but like if Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock were like, us two are going to be a voting block, and you think
Raphael about to come in there messing it up like that? No,
but does that not make sense? But I'm saying, that's what should happen. That's how you actually get stuff done, where you're like, us two are voting as one unit.
Another question.
And you can either get 48 or 50, but if to get 50, you then have to check.
And I felt
everybody's quiet.
But okay, so like, how can because we know that ain't gonna happen. First of all, Warnock said, I gotta be here at least 2 more years. Like, let me just get confident. I'm play nice with y'all boys.
But to your point, I think, and not to interrupt, but I think like at a certain point, that's the cost of getting something done. Like a lot of people in the House lost their seats after they passed the Affordable Care Act. If you want to get something done, you got to risk your job, and that's just the cost of it. If you want to be there for 30 years and not do anything, that's your choice.
Again,
but if you want to get something
Mitch McConnell in the Senate, what did you talk about, Noah? These people don't care about us. They're trying to care about preserving their images and protecting their little brand or whatever.
No, but that's what he's saying. Like his point is there is a risk. And I feel like even outside of politics, any change, there is a strong risk of something not going your way. These people have to be willing to risk
their job.
And that's my question though. Do we have somebody there that's going to risk it all? Because when I asked the question originally, you said, well, ideally Cory Booker
or rather, here's my point. If they try, they will, but they have to start first, because they often have conversations about, before they'll even try to do student loan reform, they'll get everyone together and be like, is this something we want to do? And is this something that you're willing to burn capital to do?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. When you had said that, you said that, and then I wanted to ask, how can us as citizens or whomever, us three, right? How can we get these people to be like, okay, this is what we need to happen, or Warner, I just voted for you in the Senate.
I think that's the play. But that's the play. It's literally like you did all this hooting and hollering and Keisha Lance Bottoms, when after Atlanta police killed someone, was talking about don't go out and protest, go out and vote, which was tone deaf. But like y'all did all this hooting and hollering about us voting, and then we give y'all what y'all want. Y'all have all the majorities, and you don't do anything. What's the point? What's the point? That's the call.
How do we hold them accountable? How do I? Because I'm saying that I don't see, and you.
But that's the play. It's literally saying I will not vote for you if you do not do this.
But how do I tell him this? I gotta write him a letter.
You can call. You can write letters. You can get a bunch of people to call and be like, "Yo, if you don't do this, I'm literally just not gonna vote for you." So we pay attention to that stuff.
And on Twitter too, social media, like.
Right. So we need to organize a group of people to mobilize the message of this is what we're expecting as Georgia representatives, since we just.
Yeah. And I think people are already doing that. I think people know, like, if them stimuluses don't come quick, it's done for them.
Yeah, technically he's already strike one for me. $1,400. When you said $2,000, you tweeted $2,000, and that's the thing. I feel like with these politics, you're not even saying what you. If you would have said, $1,400, but you tweeted 2 days ago $2,000. Now you're coming back with $1,400. That's simple stuff.
And then to make it worse, you're saying the $1,400 that we give you plus the $6,000 that Trump gave you will then equal $2,000. Like,
well, that's what he was saying. That's what he was saying. That's why he said y'all get 14.
But he didn't say that though. In the tweet, he said $2,000 stimulus checks, which would imply to everyone besides him that it would be full $2,000. So that's already strike one.
I also think he tweeted that to test the waters, and then they were like, people aren't budging for this. So let's.
Actually, it's going to be $1,400. So he's really already on strike one.
So moving on to the big facts, since everybody's clearly all worked up now. Hours after President Biden's inauguration, he signed 17 executive orders, largely reversing the Trump-era policies. To be quick, they include some things on COVID response. That includes a 100-day mask mandate on federal buildings, employees, contractors. It brings back the coordination office that would have probably flagged COVID before it even got to be a big thing, which Trump eliminated. They will be rejoining the World Health Organization. In terms of finances and money, they will be extending the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums, which will impact up to 11 million people. They are pausing student loans until September 31st, which means they have September 31st to figure out how to cancel it. On the environment, they are rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, ending the Keystone Pipeline. A couple other things that they did, which were not kind of as forceful. They said that the federal government will do all in its power to advance racial equity. They will count non-citizens in the census, which is pretty big, and strengthen workplace protections for the LGBTQ plus community. They also did some things on immigration, including ending the Muslim ban and stopping the border wall. So did anything kind of that bunch get out of you? What caught me was the, of course, the eviction and the student loan piece. But was there anything of that kind of struck out to you?
Boring.
Right, back to the north.
I knew the mask mandate was gonna happen.
When I see those 17 bills, I high-key checked my bank account. I was like, okay, I guess I'm about to get a 14.
You said, the stimulus ain't hit yet?
You couldn't even do that.
That's the minimum, because again, these student loans, I mean, my private, bro, you might as well cancel. You need to go ahead and cancel $50,000 across the board, and then my student loan will be done. You know what I'm saying? I might get a refund check off that bitch if they do the whole 50. Anyway, but the private people not stopping. That was the point I was getting to. Sally Mae still hitting my line, talking about you owe me. So this little pause you do until September 30th don't do nothing.
Ain't helping nobody.
You know what I'm saying? That's boring. I thought I was about to get my little 14, go shopping, buy me a little, you know what I'm saying, something.
The big ones, I guess, yes. Okay, let's see where some of these are major in Trump. The Muslim ban, that's pretty big.
The one about he changed the arrest priorities for immigration and customs. That's actually important. because like they're not going to be like picking up random people off the street anymore.
Yeah, like some of these are major, but it's still like
it doesn't get to where we need it to go.
Yeah, and I guess I'll acknowledge our privilege. We're not immigrants. We are so these weren't really concerns for us, and I understand that those probably concerns for a lot of people. But for the people here, and probably the people listening, this is just boring.
No, to your point though, Mackenzie, that's what be funny about the Democrats though. They be like, oh, who are we representing? And they'll never be trying to represent us. They be trying to like put us in the subtitles and then largely represent everybody else, which them 17 bills, you know what I'm saying, they help other people, but
Okay, so then here's a question that we put this out on our Twitter. Like, what do you want to see him do first? Like, what's his big policy priority that you want to see first? Like on Twitter, I put it as like COVID, student loans, stimulus, and like criminal justice. Like,
well, what you want him to do with COVID? He said.
Well, first of all, let me tell you.
What do you mean? What do you want him to do with?
How he gonna run out there and attack? You know, he said he gonna put out more.
You have been in Atlanta.
Let me tell you,
been in Atlanta too long.
No, because I actually voted for student loans first, and then everybody voted for COVID. So I was like, I mean that too, but
I voted for COVID.
Wait,
I voted for COVID.
I'm with Mackenzie. I am with you. I
was like, because that deadly virus that's killing like almost
4,000 people a day. Yeah, I want my president to work on
it. Listen, I'm not it. I lost close family to it. I know it's real. However, it's like the code now, like that. Like he said, he gonna put more money for testing. He said he gonna put more money toward vaccines. But realistically, because we didn't handle it, how we should have at first, it's out here now. Like these folks not wearing masks for real. These folks don't care no more. These folks is in the clubs. These folks don't care.
But then I think
say Georgia. Because everybody is tired of sitting.
It's not everybody. It's not everybody.
What month it is?
It's not everybody.
But then I think, Henry, the counterpoint to that is that we've never seen what happens when the federal government and the president is actually involved in trying to stop it. Like, I think
Republican governors like
but Henry, I think this goes to like the whole thing about like Trump is that like we've never really assessed how little he's actually done on COVID. Like the aspect of how like hands off he was on it, and like he hasn't done anything on it.
No, but what is Biden about to do?
No, he's talked about it. Like he's put in money because a lot of the issues was not having enough money to create facilities to distribute the virus,
or just having people in place who are smart enough to get it done.
Yeah,
it's just an operational thing.
Yeah, so stuff like that, like he is doing. I'm sure hopefully it'll go by smoothly. But yeah, like he was talking about even sending kids to school again, but like providing on campus or on campus facilities to make sure everything is safe and stuff like that. So stuff like that, I
said that
Trump wore a mask one time, and I think the amount of damage that or not even the amount of damage, the amount of good that he could have done by actually being involved never happened. And he is the reason why it's so bad is because the federal government has literally done nothing on it. He's basically told every state to make your own decision. And if the federal government is actually involved in making sure there's more money for testing, there's more money for this, contact tracing and all that, that has to matter to some degree. Granted, I'm kind of with you, Henry, like the ball's already gone down the road. How can you stop it? But it has to be stopped at some point.
Well, no, I'm conceding the fact that he said he gonna put more money toward it. Cool, but I mean, put money toward Kiss My Student Debt. Something that matter. I mean, Father God, heads up. We're gonna go to heads up.
All right, so we have 6 minutes left. So first off, we're going to give a props to the designers on Inauguration Day. Vice President Harris wore 2 Black designers, including Baton Rouge-born Christopher John Rogers, the ultraviolet dress and coat, and South Carolina native Sergio Hudson. She also wore Haitian-born Hire Moss on Tuesday. So just have to give a shout out. I don't have the name of Michelle Obama's hairstylist, but she deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for her efforts for that curl bang.
She looked good.
That was baby.
Yeah, she looked good.
She had them rollers on in that limousine on the way to the Capitol.
Obama got him.
He did, and Lade was trending on Twitter like, I love Black people so much.
And then finally, and probably most importantly, this was my favorite part about the inauguration.
The best performer there was, because all that other stuff was
is Amanda Gorman. She was probably the highlight of the inauguration. She is the youngest poet laureate in U.S. history. She is 22 years old and is a native of Los Angeles. She graduated from Harvard University and is the author of a 2015 collection of poems entitled "The One for Whom Food Is Not Enough." She also has 3 forthcoming books, and I'm sure that will not be the last, so get your money. So shout out to her. And I guess my last thing is, I think Biden needs to sign an executive order banning white people from ever singing Amazing Grace ever again.
Fight, yeah, boy! Listen, I was literally, y'all know I'm extra. I was like, what the, y'all, like,
that
bro,
was so disrespectful.
That's a Negro spiritual. You could have got Jennifer Hudson, Fantasia, motherfucker. I can go on the list of people.
You could have got Obama.
Obama
did that
had
once.
Beyonce. That don't mean all the black people done, sir. Lady Gaga sound terrible. J-Lo, I mean, we rather had a Shantae voiceover than that. Like, that was the most whitewashed, unseasoned inauguration. Well, it probably wasn't, but the ones I've witnessed between Obama and that one, that was the most unseasoned.
I mean, shoot, even Bill Clinton had LL Cool J in '93.
Well, there we go.
I mean,
that was terrible.
My ancestors were rolling over in their graves. He said, "Amazing." Oh my God.
What the heck? And
then he did the little failed call and response. I want y'all to sing along with me for the last verse.
Right. Boy, shut up. And then you off key.
I was like, if mayonnaise had a sound, oh my God.
It probably sound better than that. Shit, like, that pissed me off, bro. Like, don't play with my kinfolk.
Well, they were played with.
Well,
they were played with.
They were definitely played with.
So that concludes it for the 65th episode of the What's Really Going On podcast. As always, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WRGO Pod. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, where you can watch this video in full and recap all of our old episodes. Be sure to like, listen, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Lastly, to stay up to date on all of the updates, get merch, find out more about us, be sure to check out what's really going on pod.com. Henry and Mackenzie, that is all. Thank you.
Bye.